Madam Chair, Commissioners, Lead Counsel and Counsel, viewers out there, good morning and welcome to our daily proceedings of this Commission of Inquiry into Local Government Councils and related matters. For our next item on the agenda, I have the honor to yield the floor to Madam Chair. Madam Chair, over to you.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. May I now call on Honorable Sila to lead us in Muslim prayers, and Honorable Joyner will do so in the Christian way. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله فالله خير إبسان وهو الرحمن الرحيم نصر من الله وفتح قريب وبشر مؤمنين بحرمة اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أهلك والخاتم لما سبق الناس الحق بالحق والهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره ومقدار العظيم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين آمين.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Holy Father, our blessed Redeemer, thanking you for waking us up to witness yet another wonderful day. It is by your mercy and grace that we are alive. Guide us as we journey on. We don't know what is ahead of us. We believe that with you by our side, every obstacles and barriers will bow down and give way. You are great, Lord. Be our strength in the hour of weakness, and may your divine grace continue to abide with us today and forevermore. Amen.
Thank you so much. Registrar, can you call the witnesses, please? Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Witness number 1 and number 2. You may kindly sit down. While you take your beautiful photos, I also want to seize the opportunity, just as usual, to remind you that each time you come here, I am obliged to remind you of the oath you took to make testimonies before this commission for continuation of our proceedings of this Commission of Inquiry into Local Government Councils and related matters. Without much ado, I now have the honor to yield the floor back to Madam Chair for continuation of business. Madam Chair, over to you.
Good morning, Mr. Jete. Good morning, Mr. Sanyang. We are happy to have you back. Before I hand you over to Council, may I request that you inform Mr. Tambura to be here on Monday, But in any case, we will send him the summon to reappear on Monday. Please, thank you. You may proceed.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. Welcome, Honorable Commissioners. Mr. Jete, it is good to see you again, and your Director.
Council, may I just find out, you are Director of what, Mr. Sanya? Okay, so Mr. Tambura is Director of Compliance. And?
Director of Compliance and Procurement Practice.
Oh, okay. Yes. Based on the files, we will have him on Monday to continue on the other files. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. So we will be treating the Crab Island Solarization Project procurement. It is the file marked 2/22 or 2/22. May I have the registrar to show you the file? Yes, so that is the file, but I've already referred you to a letter or minutes of meetings of the steering committee. What date is it? Yes. The date on the minutes.
On the 3rd of, that's 3/6/2022.
All right. So what is that minutes all about? Is it the minutes in relation to the project?
Yes, I think so.
Yes. So can you explain to us briefly, before we go through the letter, the minutes, with respect to what this project is all about, the Crab Island Solarization Project?
Actually, it's a project implemented by BCC with resources coming from a linking or a city linked with Banjul City Council.
Is that Ostenda?
Yes, exactly.
Is Ostenda in Belgium or Holland? Is it Belgium?
I'm not sure where the town is.
Yes, I believe so. Belgium. Yes. So now the project is supposed to provide. There was supposed to be a procurement in relation to providing solarization project in Crab Island, and also in the same vein as well to construct a fence. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, but what I see with respect to that letter is minutes from the steering committee. Does that still constitute the contracts committee, or would it be different?
There could be slight differences because I think this committee is based on an agreement. So a special committee is selected purposely to be in charge of the implementation of projects identified by the council.
Now, what I want to understand now is, considering the normal trend in relation to implementation of projects or procurement, because it still falls under procurement, does that mean that when you have a project with, let's say, an outside institution or corporate body, it means that probably all procurement can be conducted by forming or initiating a joint committee and disregarding the normal procedure wherein you follow procurement being raised by the procurement unit, and then subsequently be approved by the contracts committee?
Actually, such projects are donor funded.
Yes.
And in most cases, they will have their own financial agreements based on whatever they agreed upon. So in most cases, projects like that will even require employing extra people, to a coordinator or a manager for the project. They may employ experts for the project and the like. So based on the agreement, part of it could be creating a special committee to be in charge of whatever project they want to implement. And I want to believe that this committee is as such.
Now, when you look at the Crab Island project, there seems to be letters sent for approval for an open tender. Do you see that the letter dated the 13th of June 2022? That letter appears to have the heading approval for open tender, dated the 13th of June 2022.
Yes, approval for open tender.
But then if you look at the content seems to be requesting for a restricted tender. Do you see that?
Yes.
What can you tell us about that letter?
Actually, if you look at most of their letters, apart from this letter, it's
Most of
like
it, yes.
a copy and paste. Even the files that we looked at yesterday, this last paragraph seems to appear in even those letters.
Yes.
So it's like a copy and paste. But for us, I think we went by the heading, which is a request for approval of open tender.
Yes, because you had granted the application on the 16th of June 2022. But then I was with the question regarding as to what were you granting? Were you granting the request for an open tender, or were you granting the request for a restricted tender? Because the letter was very much ambiguous in such a way that there is no way that you can know what the application is for.
Actually,
so can you read the letter to us first, the one for the 13th of June 2022, so that we have an idea as to what we're talking about? The heading and the content, it's very short.
A request for approval of open tender. The Banjul City Council has secured funding from the EU project through the Ostend City Council and intend to use part of the funds for the procurement of grid-tied solar photovoltaic for the former Crab Island Upper Basic School.
Yes.
In this vein, we have conducted a market research, and the funding suggests there are few suppliers available in the market with the capacity of fulfilling this particular procurement. Therefore, we kindly request for use of restricted tender to proceed with this procurement in line with the GPPA Act 2014, Section 39A. The goods, works, consultancy services or services are only available from a limited number of bidders known to the procuring organization. And attached with these requests are the following documents. 1, GPPA form.
Please speak louder.
Attached with this request are the following documents. 1, GPPA form 100, that is the purchase requisition.
Yes.
2, bidding document. 3, GPPA form 001, which is the record of open tender. 4, contract committee meetings minutes. And you have GPPA form 012.
Now, you responded on the 16th of June 2022. Is that not correct?
Correct.
And the nature of your response was it for an open tender or for the restricted tendering?
Our response was approval on your request to use open tender, because in most cases we look at the heading, sort of the caption.
Yes, but was it very specific in your response as to whether you
to
were
use
granting open tender?
Yes, the approval is for them to use open tender.
Open tender. Now, where you have these differences or these contradictions in the applications, how do you solve them? Is it not probably more prudent to actually write back to have clarification in relation to the form of tendering or method of procurement that they want to use?
Actually, in all our correspondences, in most cases, we will highlight anomalies and then draw their attention to them and ask them to correct them. But in this case, we did not. But actually, we just think that the subject matter, which is even in bold, is what the procurement is about, and we gave them approval for the use of.
Because in the application, they listed that they have identified, they have conducted a market survey, and they have identified list of suppliers that they that are known to them and they want to deal with. That is why, I mean, in the content, that is why they want to opt for at least tendering. So my point is, if you grant an open tender, when probably you are thinking that maybe it's just more of a copy and paste, but what they intended was an open tender, could it not also really still have a negative impact, because they will still go ahead and conduct or deal with or inform the suppliers that they have already earmarked for the purpose of supplying these goods?
I don't think it should have a negative impact, because if you look at the letter, and attached with the letter you have other documentation, which include Form 001, which is a reporting form for open tender. If you look at the bidding document also, which is attached, is a bidding document request for a bidding document for open tender. If you look at the bidding, it's about open tender.
Mr. Sanyang.
Yes.
Before I proceed to ask a question on this, on the same point that we're talking about, I just wish to quickly find out whether you were able to get the bid document for the project. This is Bajum company that
Bajam. No, I don't, because like I said previously, normally by the time we close here, it's already 4 o'clock. Before I get to the office to make arrangements like that, it's already late. Okay. So I will always communicate and then ensure that this is provided as soon as possible.
All right, thank you. Okay, on this issue, Council is trying to indicate that what is contained in the letter that BCC wrote to you, they have indicated specifically that they have identified potential bidders. So his question is, given the fact that they requested for approval for open tender, would there be no conflict? Since in their letter, they said they have already identified. And if it is open tender, you know, you are allowing everybody to participate. You don't necessarily have to call them to participate because it's an open tender. And in your advertisement, everybody is welcome as long as you are able to meet the requirements that are set forth in the bidding document.
It could be a sort of a conflict, sort of. But actually, as provided by the law, with a certain threshold, no procuring organization shall engage in any procurement without getting to the authority. So here, even mistakenly, they requested for restricted tender, and in our letter, we indicate that, because even choosing restricted tender doesn't mean that approval has been granted. Even if their request is for restricted tender, we could have rejected it. So no action should have been taken before our letter. And in our letter, it is clearly indicated that the approval is for the application of open tender.
Yes. Now, did they end up advertising for open tender? Yes, please proceed.
Who signed the letter from the PO?
From the procuring organization. Now here we have the executive officer, chief executive officer, and the name is not written. Yes, there is a signature.
Now, did they advertise in line with the rules governing open tendering? Do you see any?
I am trying to look at evidences because with their submission, they are expected to submit
Yes.
the whatever their full next submission with evidences of approval, and that is what I am trying. And here I have seen a receipt from the standards for this particular advertisement.
Is there any date on that?
The date
Yes.
is 28/7/2022.
That's the receipt
That is the receipt.
of payment
Sorry,
payment for what?
Actually, it is not indicated here. All what we have here is invoice number, so I assume there is an invoice.
So ideally, normally, what would happen is they would provide evidence of not only payment of for the purpose of advertisement, but evidence that in fact there was advertisement done, and then the various media outlets that were being paid to conduct these advertisements. Is that not the procedure?
Yes, and I have attached with this receipt. There is the invoice from the Standards newspaper. Standard newspaper.
What is the invoice about?
Invitation to tender for a grid tie solar SPV system.
What is
and,
it?
attached with that invoice also, I have the extract of the advertisement.
What is the
from
date
the
of the
newspaper.
what is the date of the extract of the advertisement?
International tender notification. Invitation to tender for a grid tie solar photovoltaic system.
The date. Is there a date on the advertisement itself?
No, I have not seen a date.
Because the reason why I asked that is that in subsequent files you will see that sometimes they would provide evidence of advertisement.
Yes.
I have one for 4 of 2022, wherein you have advised that they conduct an open tender, but all that was extracted was just a printout from one newspaper. Even the newspaper, whether it's Standard or Point, is not indicated. The date is not indicated. It can just be a printout from anyone's laptop. So how would we know that advertisement was conducted or was done on a particular date using a particular medium of communication?
Council, actually, I think you have a point, and that was what exactly happened with KMC also, but I was able to clarify because they were able to tell me exactly which newspaper, the date, and even the publication number. which are all provided and they are part of the documents that are supposed to be submitted to the
Because the reason why you need the date and evidence of actual advertisement.
He said they are all provided and it's part of the documents you submitted.
No, I said they are part of the documents that are supposed to be submitted because they were requested for.
Thank you, thank you.
Yes, so you will agree that the reason why it is important to have the issue of advertisement being cleared is when you've advised that there should be open tendering, it is for the purpose of transparency.
Correct.
And so evidence must be provided in relation to whether in fact a particular tender was conducted in a particular way. For example, open tendering. So the time frame here also matters. Did they give sufficient time to the possible bidders or interested parties that wants to take part in the bidding process, Mr. Jaite? So if we don't have the timelines in relation to whether in fact advertisement was done on this particular date, and then you know the timeline between the advertisement and the bidding period, then you would know whether there is in fact a fair process being given to all potential bidders. Is that not the case?
Council, you have a point, but I agree that you have a point. But sometimes these advertisements will even be followed by us. This is a long time. We never think that it will come like this. But then, in most cases, even at our own level there, we make follow-ups so that when an approval is given, we become very observant to see when this will appear on the newspapers and the like. And sometimes during that advertisement, when something like this is provided, then it would have been very new and we make reference.
Yes.
I am not saying that that is exactly what happened.
Exactly.
But this is way back, years back, 1 or 2 years back. But then, and this is what exactly happens. When an approval is given, we become very observant to see that the advertisement is done as indicated in the bidding document.
Right.
So you have a point. Everything should have been in record, but then I want to also let you know that this is how we operate.
I understand.
We don't depend entirely on what they tell us. When they tell us, and even something like this is given, the process would have been very fresh, and we refer to the documents to confirm.
Yes.
Sometimes we do that.
So sometimes you do that.
Yes.
But in this case, you can't confirm that that was done.
I cannot.
Yes. My concern mainly, in fact, is just that if you want to draw a sense as to why there is an inconsistency in the application of whether they want to, because you may be acting in good faith in trying to say, well, probably it's just more of a copy and paste, but then they intended open tender and we granted open tender. But then in the same vein, they have highlighted whether it's a copy and paste or not, that we had identified suppliers.
Yeah.
So now, if it was a genuine copy and paste with no malicious intention, for example, or no hidden agenda, then they would have abided by all the rules and the regulations, so that the timelines met, the advertisement in accordance with the bidding process and everything would be very much clear. Or any potential bidder would have had adequate information to participate or otherwise in relation to the bid process. Is that not the case? So that here we were told, if we were to go by the letter, we were told that they know the suppliers they want to deal with, because they have conducted a market research. And you have an advertisement, and these things are, you see in most of their like in the subsequent documents, that when they give you an evidence of an advertisement, you cannot know or tell as to whether in fact advertisement was being conducted, or if it was done, when was it done? Was there an ample time to avail for the purpose of fair bidding? What is your reaction to that, Mr. Jaite?
Council, I agree. But remember that even at this commission some time ago, we mentioned about the importance of procurement planning and the like. And we also discussed that market research is necessary for a procurement plan. So whether they're going to use open or restricted tender, they can still conduct a market research.
Yes.
And the other point is like whether they opted for restricted tender or open tender, our approval is clear. It is clearly indicated that we are approving for the application of open tender. So that, of course, render all the other requests, even if it is a request for a restricted tender, our approval have rendered that request.
Absolutely. We are going by the application, the approval for open tender, because as an authority you have granted and you have interpreted the letter to mean open tender. Genuinely, perhaps I will give you a pass on that, and your approval is with respect to open tender. I am now saying that, and which we've already discussed, that it may not probably be a mistake as well. It may be intentional on the side of the procuring organization.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah, it's
because
possible.
if I don't want to, if I just want to go by, and I have to go by the application by itself, simpliciter, they have informed that they know who they want to deal with in relation to these projects, and that is the case. But then probably you did not go by that. You only approved for open tendering. And looking at all that inconsistencies, and still they do not have evidence of what the rules required in relation to open tendering. Do you see the point? They haven't followed they haven't given evidence of adequate advertisement. Have they?
Well, at this point, what we have before us cannot clearly explain that the open tender procurement method was used. Was used,
exactly. So that is my point with respect to this procurement. Now, was there any successful bidder? It appears as if one Unique Energy was contacted.
Yes, I think as per their submission, there was a successful bidder. I think.
So,
I'm not sure.
With respect to the application for open tender, the heading, did they subsequently mention or list any potential suppliers that are known to them? You can check the letter on the 13th of June.
This file is not properly arranged.
All the files are not properly arranged. I think you have highlighted that in your reports regarding
the letter 13th of June.
Yes. Do you see it?
Not yet.
You read the letter earlier regarding the application for open tender.
It must be this side.
While you are checking that that letter, do you know the state of the project? Yes. Do you see the letter?
Yes, this is the letter dated 13th of June.
So in that file or attached to the letter, is there any list of suppliers that are probably identified? Do you see any? Can you check?
I have not seen any attached list of suppliers being identified.
Now,
sorry, a point of clarification. Is it supposed to be suppliers or bidders?
Bidders.
Because they requested for approval for open tender.
Yes.
And so what we expect to see is participants in the bidding process, and this will be numbers of bidders who participated in the process.
Yes. Do you have any in the file?
No. No, I have not seen any. But bidders can be suppliers.
Okay. That's all right. So now, what is the state of the project? Do you know?
Now, according to our findings, the contract was signed not long ago, but not implemented.
Do you know why?
No, I definitely don't know much about why it was not implemented, but I can find out. I know that the contract was signed with the successful bidder, but has not taken effect.
That is Unique Energy.
Yes, Unique Energy.
Yes. So if you say according to your findings, is there not any reporting mechanism or as to how you can make follow-ups in relation to having information as to procurements that you have granted approval for, to have adequate information as to the state of the project?
Actually, there are mechanisms.
Please tell
but
us.
Like I said earlier.
Can you tell us first about the mechanisms?
Now, procuring organizations are required to report to the authority by completing Form 041.
041. What is Form 041?
041 is the supplier assessment.
Yes.
So that the procuring organization will tell the authority the level of implementation, or if there are any problems that the contractor or supplier have successfully implemented as planned or otherwise. But like I said earlier, this contract, actually I cannot remember exactly, I don't know exactly when it was signed, but contract was signed not long ago. So even if they are to report to us, we will not say that already it is late for them to report to us, because this contract was signed not long ago.
Mr. Sanyan, can you take us through the evaluation report?
Evaluation report?
Yes.
Okay.
First, take us through the contracts committee minutes to tell us what transpired during that meeting and what was agreed upon, and you take us through the evaluation report, because they said those documents were attached in the file.
So I should take you through the contracts.
First, the contracts committee meeting. I think, Mr. Jete, you should note that the files that we are in receipt of are not really properly, because there is no sort of consistency in any of the files. So please note that.
Noted. Thank you.
I have meeting minutes dated 11/8/2022. I don't know whether that is the one you are referring to.
Contracts committee meeting?
Yes, I think so. Is that?
No. Is it what you found on the paper? What you are reading from? Is it the contracts committee meeting, or is it, what sort of meeting is it? What is the title of the document?
The title is meeting minutes. And
So
it's about the solar tender,
Yes.
which we are talking about.
Yes.
So I assume is the contracts
Yes, but
committee meeting.
I have told you, let us not assume, because if you assume, there might be difficulty in us appreciating the evidence, because what is in the paper and what we know, and you as a technician telling us what to appreciate when it comes to the compliance. You understand? We may have issues with our evidence. So if it is minutes of meeting, you just tell us that what you see in the document is minutes of meeting. Because the people that have written these letters will be seated there to tell us exactly what it is.
Actually, I have indicated here several times that as far as contrast committees are concerned, when it comes to the law, there are three key people. But here, since we started the KMC and the project-related issues, I think we also discussed here that they have their own arrangements, financial arrangements, which, of course, also allow them to select sort of a task force, a committee responsible for all these procurements. So whatever we are discussing here, even in the morning here, we mentioned about that special task force or committee that is selected purposely for this particular. So the minutes that I am about to read is about that task force that is in charge of the implementation of this particular project.
I do understand that we are making specific reference to funded projects. That's
Exactly.
where this issue of special task force comes in. Because you could see that in KMC, in their normal procurement activity, they use correct terminology. When they have a contracts committee meeting, they state that it is a contracts committee meeting, because as per the rules, they would be following the rules. We have seen where they were following the rules. So I am saying, even if it is, because we have not seen any document to tell us this funded project, on what basis it is. And that is why you have the authority to look into that activity and to regulate it. So until we get that document, we will be assuming to be relying on the authority to see what has transpired. So that is why I said you read what you see on the paper and give us that.
What I have seen here is meeting minutes.
Thank you. Yes, and then you can proceed.
I think you will be better guided if you look at the heading where you have the column meeting date and place. You can better tell the commissioners whether it is that of the contracts committee or any other committee. Is that not indicated there?
It's not indicated.
Please proceed then. Proceed.
So here I have participants. Name Mustafa Bachili, and he is the CEO, Banjul City Council. You have Mr. Mam Lai Jase, Project Coordinator, Mr. Issa Sow, Acting Procurement Officer, Mr. Alfuseni Gano, Project Manager, Mrs. Anabari, Admin Secretary. Alpha Moduba, Procurement Intern, Mrs. Dado Jallo, Assistant Procurement Officer, and Mrs. Umiba, Procurement Intern. And the attendants, Mr. Jonas Skirens, CityLink, Banjul Ostend EU Project, Ostend Coordinator, Mr. Babukar Koli, Azimut 360, Mr. Peter Mane, Wagner Solar, Mr. George Sanyang, Helweka Energy, Mr. Njaga Sise, Unique Energy, Mrs. Josephine Sambu, Green Link Solar, Mrs. Awasuso, GPPA Rep, and Mr. Usman Kurubali, GPPA Rep. Usman Kurubali, GPP.
Yes.
Yes, these are the members that we have, but we have an observation here.
Yes.
We have our Suso, who is the GPP rep, and we also have Usman Kurubali. And under the, we have GPP, but we don't have any staff by the name Usman Kurubali.
Okay.
Yes, so probably it's a mistake on their side, maybe.
No, you don't say it's a mistake on their side. Just
Okay.
yes, because you cannot talk for them.
Okay.
Yes.
Madam Chair, I think you are very right.
Yes, he should not talk for them.
I think we should stop
Yes, he
assuming.
should
Let's
stop
just go
assume
by
for
the
this.
files.
Exactly. He cannot say it is whether they are a mistake or not. Somebody give you a document, put somebody's name, and somebody signing the document. You say you assume it's mistake.
Okay.
Now, the reason why I said you look at the minutes is because it seems to us, you may correct me if I am wrong, that there were other people that participated in the tender.
Correct.
Yes. So can you please go forward to check what was the meeting,
Okay.
whether they complied with the procedures of opening the tender, whether the time schedules were respected, and all of that, and how they arrived, because you could see that in KMC they used their own, even though you have your own metrics to show who qualifies for what, meeting the requirements. So we want to see whether BCC did the same thing to comply with the GPPA rules and act.
Okay. Now discussions. Mr. Issa Sow made an introductory remark, starting with individual prayers by all attendees. The BCC procurement team made an introduction. He highlighted on the importance of respecting the bidding procedures. He further stated that the bidders were given 30 days to buy the bid forms and fill in the necessary specifications. It was stipulated that all tender documents be submitted in sealed envelopes, and as well copies included to the council secretary with their right details entered in the logbook. He further informed the meeting that 6 interested applicants bought the tender document, but it was informed that only 5 companies submitted at the stipulated date and time. Mr. Sow gave the meeting the opportunity for each member to introduce himself or themselves and their area of representatives. After the due procedures of ensuring that all bidders verify their submitted files, the following were taken note of. These include their bid security forms, the project cost, and the eligibility criteria. The files were given to everyone present to confirm that it has not been tampered. The GPPA representative, our Suso, and Usman Kurubali signed off on each tender dossier. Mr. Skiran?
Yes, I said you should not
exactly,
assume or even state that it might be a mistake.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Skiran informed the meeting that Energy House of the City of Ostend will part of the evaluation procedures. He requested that soft copies of all the bid documents to be sent as soon as possible. So there is a table that was taking records of what was submitted by each of the bidders. You have technical specifications, then you have the names of all those who bidded for the project. You have 1, bid security, Heloica Energy, The bid security was from Bloombank, amounting to 5.84.78 euros, and in Gambian dollars amounted to 327,083.68, and this was 2% of the bidded amount. Unique Energy from Royal Insurance, amounting to 359,227.94, but that is, according to them, more than 2% of the bidded amount. Wagner Solar, bid security from EcoBank, amounting to 185,770, which is 2% of the bidded amount. Then you have Green Link from the bid security from Gambia National Insurance Company, amounting to 96.03. According to them, this is less than 2% of the bidded amount. And finally, you have Azimuth, 360 SCCL. The bid security amounting to 4,900, equivalent to Gambian dollars 274,400. Not a proper, according to them, not a proper bank guarantee, not in proper bank's official letter. So that bid security, according to them, was not recognized in the sense that it is not on a letterhead, and so.
Before you proceed, what was the bid amount, and why the inconsistency? Because if the bid amount is certain, the 2% should be certain, and the 2% should be consistent throughout.
What bid amount are you talking about? Because
for the project,
these are amounts stated by the various suppliers. So they are, except if you ask for the estimate.
Yes.
But the bid security is not calculated based on the estimate. It's calculated based on
their
the
own
offers. Yes.
On their own offer.
Exactly.
That they are given.
Yes.
Thank you. That is what I wanted you to clarify.
Okay. So
Now, any question?
There you come.
Yes, so I had asked what the state of the project is, because the reason being is that for BCC, all of these projects, they include the Crab Island Soil Erosion project, the fencing of Crab Island. You will see that in the same project there is the construction of a fence, a perimeter fence at the, is it the mile 2?
Mile 2 dump site.
Dump site?
Yes.
And you also have the construction of a at the Tanbi Wharf, where they were supposed to construct sustainable project in the Tanbi Wetland National Park. So all these are probably one and the same project. So you will see that it appears as if none of these projects are really kickstart since 2022. That is why I asked whether you have any reporting mechanisms. So you were addressing us on the issue of Form 041, apparently. So do you have any correspondence to that? Because it is since June, or they say January 2022, and we are in 2023 now. So were there any correspondence in relation to having feedbacks as to how, what is the state of these projects?
Actually, for some of them, like the fencing of Crab Island.
Yes.
Yes, we got a feedback some time ago that the awarded contractor, the contract awarded to a bidder, there has been was not satisfactorily done, and there was a problem with them, and finally the contract, in fact the BCC wrote a request for the authorities' approval to terminate and also requested for a relaunch. One to terminate and then relaunch the project. That was done, and another subcontractor was identified.
Yeah, so we will come to that. But then for this Crab Island solarization project,
Council, let
yes.
me just find out from Mr. Jete. Do you normally have recourse to Section 67 of the Act? Please look at Section 67
The new act?
of the 2014-18 Act.
Section 67.
14 reviewed in 18. '67.
Yes.
What does 67 say?
Investigation of procurement proceedings.
Yes.
A law enforcement agency may, at the request of the authority, conduct an investigation into any matter related to the conduct of procurement proceedings by a procuring organization, or the conclusion or operation of a procurement where an investigation is necessary or desirable to prevent or detect a contravention of the Act.
So at any point, did you have recourse to use this provision? Because this clearly tells you that in situations like this, the authority has a ready-made remedy for problems like this, and that is provided for in the Act.
Yes, you are absolutely right. And the same section
And
is...
you don't even need to go to the Auditor General or go anywhere. You just go to an investigating agency or authority, right?
Yes, you are right. Like I said, I think, was it last week?
Is this replicated in the 2022 Act?
Absolutely, it is.
Yeah, okay.
It's on...
I think I have seen it.
I think
Maybe it is in section 84.
Section 84.
Yes.
Exactly. So yes, it is in both acts. And again, I reported this, I think, last week when I was talking about the powers of the authority. So this is one of the powers of the authority.
So in other words, the authority absolutely have absolute powers to intervene at any point in time when they feel, or when they even receive correspondences from the POs that things are not going well.
Yes, absolutely. The Act has given us lots of powers, Section 12, Section 13, Section 84, Section 92.
Yes.
These are all powers that the authority can leverage
Yes.
in procurements.
Yes.
During my tenure, though, we have not used this particular section, Section 84. But it is usable. As you can see, it's a stipulation of the Act.
Thank you. Council, you may proceed.
Yes. So now, again, if you look at, well, let me just give you a hint. There is a reason why most of these projects did not really kickstart, or probably part of the reason why. If you look at all the minutes of these meetings, that's why I'm telling you all of these projects are really by Ostender Joint Steering Committee with BCC. You understand that? And in fact, that was why I was referring to you. If you look at the minutes of the meetings, usually the ones they will attach to the applications for approval, which they will refer to as the Contracts Committee meeting. They are more or less like the joint steering committee meeting. Yeah. But then the idea is staffs were, or some members of these joint committees were giving themselves loans, which subsequently you will see that there was a really big issue regarding the Ostender people claiming that these loans be paid back because it is not something that is proper. But we will come to that. So we will come to all of those things. That was why I was telling you whether you are aware of whether any of these projects really kickstart and then whether they were being completed. I'm not sure whether you are aware of what I am saying.
Yes.
Are you aware? What do you know about that?
The loans?
Yes.
Actually, when you talk about loans here, I'm not very sure whether you are referring to the pre-finance, the advance payment.
We will come to that, not
Okay.
the advance payment. So now we have said that the Crab Island project did not kickstart. Is that the case? Because
Yes.
you haven't had any
Yes,
feedback or report regarding the state of the project?
Yes,
Is that
yes.
not the case?
Exactly, yes.
Now, the minutes of the meeting, as highlighted in the request for approval letter, they said they have attached a contracts committee meeting. Do you see that?
There are several.
The list of documents.
Is it different from the minute that I have just read?
Can I see the file?
So I have extracted them so that I am able to go through them. But they are arranged in order. So here I think we have to find out this Usman Kurbali because he was there with our Susho. So we are not aware.
Is that not the minutes of the meeting that I referred to you earlier, dated the 3rd of June, 2022?
Yes.
3rd of June, yes. So in that minute, what was agreed upon by the parties or those present as to the form or method of procurement? If you turn to the next page,
On
yes.
the last page, where we have a heading decision, the meeting therefore unanimously agree on an international open tender, and the project team was instructed to work with the procurement unit of the council ASAP, as this is a top project priority.
Yes. But what they applied for instead was not for international open tender.
Yes,
What they applied for is what?
open tender.
An open tender with the content of a restricted tender.
Yes.
Now, what is the difference again between an international open tender and just open tender?
Now, for international open tender, it's also like the open tender, but in this case, in the case of international open tender, foreign suppliers or contractors can compete. It can go beyond the borders of the Gambia
Yes.
if it is international.
And so, basically, you may stand the chance of having more qualified, probably suppliers or companies that may participate in that tendering.
Correct.
So those that are in charge of this particular tendering process may not have a really too much of a discretion to decide as to whether you will favor one supplier over the other. Is that not the case?
Correct.
Yes. So please hand over the file. I just want to show you something. Now my point is, they had a meeting. The agreement was for international open tender, but then is that what they applied when they sent an application for approval? Is that what they applied for? Is that what they applied for when they now send an application for approval?
I'm waiting for the document to make reference to be sure of what.
No, we have already discussed that. We have already discussed that they applied for open tender, normal open tender.
And the approval is about open
Yes.
tender.
So that is my point. That's why I said when they really applied for it to your office, did they apply for international open tender or they applied for open tender?
They applied for open tender.
Now, would you not normally have access to the documents, because they will refer to you that attached in their application, that they will attach necessary documents, and in this case, attached would be the minutes of the meetings. Is that not the case?
Correct.
So that document would have been attached in the application for approval.
Correct.
Would it be prudent to grant an application for open tender when the minutes suggest that it should be for international open tender?
The minutes of the meetings are very important because it shows that the committee, or all members that attended and appended their signatures, have reached an agreement which is attached.
Yes.
And we should also be very conscious of any arrangement or agreement of a contrast committee. But in this case, the authority looked at the covering letter, which we feel is the summary of whatever agreement that they have on that one.
So in essence,
sorry, Council, but Mr. Sanyang, you've told us that when these things are sent to your office, there is a review process.
Correct.
Before approval is granted.
Correct.
So what Council is trying to put across is that what was requested for was open tender. And what we have seen in the document was international open tender. An international open tender has criteria, and there must be evidence of the fact that they have followed process, you understand,
Correct.
to arrive at, shortlisting the potential bidders.
Correct.
And there is no evidence that is attached thereto to show that it complied with the procedures of open international tender. Is that not correct?
Correct.
Yes. So the issue is that, is it not for the authority to highlight or to advise that this is what you sought approval for, but this is what we have seen in your contracts committee meeting? Before you proceed, can you amend or correct where it is possible to correct? Have you
Correct.
done that in this instance?
No, I don't think
All right.
it was done.
Council, you may proceed.
yes. So now, that being the case, we will now move on to, because that file also contained the fencing of 2 lots in relation to Crab Island. Do you see that? You can refer yourself to the letter dated the 23rd day of January 2023.
23rd
of January 2023. Do you see it?
23rd of January. Yes, the letter dated 23rd of January 2023.
What is can you please read to us that letter?
Now, reference is about request for quotations.
Yes.
Council is hereby inviting you to submit a quotation on or before 2nd February 2023 for the continuation and completion of the 2 lots at the former Crab Island School. The works were contracted to Jala Kolong Enterprise
Yes.
construction company and later terminated due to poor performance and per quality works. The work is of 2 lots. Lot 3, rehabilitation of existing building, and Lot 4, reconstruction of the perimeter fencing for former Crab Island School and repairs of some defects. You are required to conduct a site visit in consultation with the Director of Planning and Development, BCC, and Project Consultant, BCC, Ostender, EU.
Now, the application for, that application was probably denied by the letter dated the 6th of February 2023. And the reasons
actually, the ACs are not working in the hall. I was just informed, and we can all feel the heat. So we are told that there is an electricity problem which they are trying to resolve. So we will rise now and give them the opportunity to fix the ACs inside the hall. So thank you so much. If it does permit, we will just extend for our lunch break